In 6 days, Nazi soldiers stripped one of the greatest art treasures ever built from the walls of a Russian imperial palace. 6 tons of carved amber panels, packed into crates and hauled west. The original has never been seen since. No government, no army, and no treasure hunter has been able to produce a single authenticated piece of it. The Amber Room was commissioned in 1701 by Prussian King Frederick I and designed by sculptor Andreas Schluter. Its walls were covered entirely in finely carved amber, a fossilized resin rarer and more expensive than gold at the time, backed with gold foil and mirror glass. The completed chamber glowed like the inside of a lantern. In 1716, Frederick William I of Prussia gifted the entire room to Russian Tsar Peter the Great, cementing a military alliance against Sweden. Russian soldiers loaded the amber panels into 18 crates and transported them by sled hundreds of miles to St. Petersburg, the most elaborate diplomatic gift exchange between European powers in that century. The crates sat disassembled in a St. Petersburg warehouse for nearly 20 years before Empress Elizabeth ordered the room installed in the Catherine Palace at Tsarskoye Selo, 15 miles south of the city. Italian master Bartolomeo Rastrelli oversaw a major expansion, adding Florentine stone mosaics and gilded carvings that took 12 years to complete. By 1770, the completed chamber covered 55 square meters. In candlelight, amber and gold merged into a single warm glow, cognac, honey, and deep brown, that visitors described as overwhelming. European ambassadors called it the eighth wonder of the world. For 170 years, it stood untouched inside the Catherine Palace. That was about to end. On September 17, 1941, German Army Group North captured Tsarskoye Selo. Soviet curators had covered the Amber Room's panels with cotton wool and wallpaper. The panels were simply too fragile to evacuate in time. German soldiers pulled the paper back within the hour and immediately understood what they had found. A specialist team under Alfred Rosenberg's art looting unit, the Einsatzstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg, dismantled every panel from the walls within 6 days. By late October 1941, the crates arrived at Königsberg Castle in German East Prussia, territory the Nazi administration believed it would hold indefinitely. Königsberg's Gauleiter Erich Koch put the Amber Room on public exhibition in the Castle Museum, a trophy of conquest displayed openly to German officers and officials for 3 years. Then, in the summer of 1944, the RAF launched heavy bombing raids on Königsberg's medieval center, and everything changed. By autumn 1944, Koch ordered the panels repacked into crates. On January 12, 1945, the Soviet Army launched its massive winter offensive and encircled Königsberg within days. Witnesses later described watching crates loaded onto vehicles in the castle courtyard under cover of darkness. No surviving written record confirms where those vehicles went. Soviet forces stormed Königsberg in April 1945. When investigators reached the castle, they found it substantially destroyed and the Amber Room completely absent. Months of interrogating German prisoners and local survivors produced accounts that flatly contradicted each other. A ship in the harbor, a southbound train, burial beneath the city itself. For decades, the most committed investigator was not a government agency, but a single private individual, George Stein, a former German soldier who spent 30 years compiling wartime transport logs, interviewing aging veterans across West Germany, and cross-referencing the administrative records of dozens of Nazi offices. By 1987, he told associates he had found the decisive lead. In November 1987, Stein's body was found in a Bavarian forest. He had been disemboweled. West German authorities ruled it a suicide, a conclusion immediately disputed by journalists and fellow researchers who had followed his work for years. His case files were never recovered. He had been weeks from publishing his findings. 3 serious theories have dominated the investigation ever since. The first, and most accepted among professional art historians, holds that the bulk of the room was destroyed in the fire that swept through Königsberg Castle in April 1945. Amber is organic resin that ignites at relatively low temperatures. A conflagration hot enough to collapse stone walls would have reduced the panels to ash and vapor. The second theory focuses on the Wehrmacht tunnel network beneath what is now the city of Kaliningrad. These bunkers and passages have never been fully mapped. Russian archaeologists working the system over 4 decades have found sealed chambers with intact walls. Several have not been opened. The third theory rests on wartime railway transfer documents found in German archives pointing to a westward evacuation in January 1945. The crates moved by rail into Germany and hidden in a mine or vault. This was established Nazi practice. The Altasee salt mine in Austria concealed over 6,000 looted artworks that Allied forces recovered intact in May 1945. The Amber Room was not among them. Then, in 1997, German police in Bremen made a recovery that unsettled every prior assumption. They seized a single authenticated amber mosaic panel and a Florentine stone mosaic chest, both confirmed by Russian experts as original components of the Amber Room. They had been held by the family of a German soldier stationed in Königsberg in early 1945, passed down quietly across 2 generations. The panel was returned to Russia in 2000. Its significance was precise. At least some of the room had not been destroyed. Pieces had been looted individually by soldiers and survived 5 decades in private hands. That meant panels could be scattered across Europe in cellars, garages, and storage rooms, held by people who have no idea what they possess. Russia did not wait for the original to surface. Beginning in 1979, craftsmen at Tsarskoye Selo undertook a full reconstruction from historical photographs and surviving technical drawings. The project required 24 years and tens of millions of dollars, with major funding from German energy company Ruhrgas AG. In May 2003, President Putin and Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder jointly opened the completed replica. The professional consensus today, built from decades of archival work by Russian and German historians, is that the bulk of the original Amber Room was most likely destroyed in April 1945. The contradictory witness testimony, the complete absence of any authenticated sighting after January of that year, and the known vulnerability of the material all converge on the same conclusion. But no physical evidence of its destruction has ever been produced. The 1997 panel is the fact that forecloses any final answer. At least some pieces survived, traveled inside a soldier's kit bag, and sat in a family home for 50 years before surfacing by accident. How many more panels took a similar journey? And could one be sitting unrecognized in someone's storage right now? Leave your theory in the comments.